I look good. Hey, everyone. Come see how good I look. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, your boy Clint, bringing it to you here on Pub Sports Radio. And it's the last pay-per-view event of 2022. We made it, UFC 282. I am beyond pumped to talk about this card with you all. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your week out there on the internets, and everybody just kicking some ass early this week on Monday. Unfortunately, we did not kick ass over the weekend. Last week's event, just a manageable little baby loss, minus 1.5 units. Honestly, with the losing skid that I've had this year, I cannot complain about a little bump in the road like that. But the one thing, fucking Mark Diakese, man. Like, that's the one where I'm like, I can't even say that I necessarily handicapped that fight wrong. I don't even know if that was a bad bet. What the hell was he doing? Anyway, we got to move on. That's right, Nunya. Go Vikings, baby. Pulling off another big win. Nobody saw us coming. All right. So, folks, we have the biggest pay-per-view card of the year. Unfortunately, it's falling apart a little bit. We lost the main event. No Glover, no Jury. My guy, Jan, looking to play spoiler in the main event, though, bumped up for the interim title. I love that. This is still going to be an absolutely awesome stacked event. And an event like this deserves a very special guest. And I couldn't be more excited to introduce for the first time on the Die Hard MMA podcast, none other than Connor Burks, who you may know from the MMA Hour. Connor, what's up, buddy? How you doing today, man?
What's going on, brother? It's an honor to be here. Love that you intro with Diakese. He also killed me on a parlay. Why not just wrestle? I don't really understand it, but alas, I'm right there with you on that one.
I mean, okay, so even if Michael Johnson just has the best sprawl and brawl in the game and he can't wrestle, you know, the jab and the leg kick, like those work fine. What's with the rolling thunder and the 12 flying knees? Like, this guy was a striker when he came to the UFC. Did he just forget how to win like a 15-minute decision striking? I'm at a loss, man. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the corner, too. I mean, he seemed to be just in complete disbelief in what felt like the entire world knew that he was about to lose a 29-28 decision.
Down to the screaming before they read off the cards, like sheer belief that he was the runaway winner in that fight. That
he heard unanimous decision. He's like, this is me. That's it.
Yeah.
This is me.
There was zero question there. And I'm just like, okay. Like I don't know what the corner said to him. Honestly, I didn't even get to hear the cornering for that one. So I would love to go back and see what the coaches had to say, you know, between rounds and stuff like that. But just one of the lowest, and that it's saying a lot because of what happened in the main event, but one of the lowest fight IQ fights I think we have ever witnessed. And that was before we got to see Kevin Holland.
The worst part about that Holland thing is I was on Holland and I was making this big argument throughout the week. I was just like, yeah, man, I think he's going to use the ground game at some point. Not only did he not use the ground game, he like explicitly made a point to not use it. Like it was like when he first fell down, got a takedown or whatever it was, I was like, there it is. There we go. Now we're going to start being smart here. We're not going to strike with the 37-0 or however many wins he had in kickboxing, the undefeated kickboxer. But alas, man. Yeah, so overall for me, I heard you had minimal losses. I lost about 4 units. Ended I was perfect in November on winning weeks, was really hot, but hot streaks always got to come to an end. Time to bounce back at 282.
That's the game, right, man? All the streaks come to an end. You know, I did go on like a nice little 2-event streak, which this year for me, Connor, was actually pretty good. This has been a rough year for your boy. But I put back-to-back wins together. I was looking forward to, you know, making it 3 in a row. Unfortunate. I'm glad it wasn't like a, you know, like an 8-unit bomb that I dropped or something like that. I can get away with a little loss, and we'll just try to get back on track this week. Both of us here. I think we have some decent spots. This is a fun card, man. I can't wait to get into this thing and talk about it with you.
For sure. I mean, you mentioned it, like it feels like anything less than like 2 units. It's like, you know, it is what it is. One thing I do have to say, your betting style the way that you go about betting. I've never seen a person who loves plus money, who loves an underdog more than you, which actually leads me to this point. We're really breaking the fourth wall here. My webcam is like stuck on the Zoom, however it's zoomed up, but I got a nice chalk donkey shirt on because I just
There
like
you
I'm never
go.
afraid to play it. I think it says it on the back here. I know I can't. There it is. There it is.
Why did it make
Oh,
me full screen and not you? I was trying to full
oh,
screen you.
there we go. There
Very
we go.
nice.
Yeah. Figured I just had to rock that today.
I like it. Personally, I went it's Paddy the
Oh,
Baddy fight
Paddy
week,
the
man. You
Baddy.
gotta break out the
Oh,
Paddy the Baddy. Yeah, man. I have like a average line of like plus 325 or
that's
something like
insanity.
that.
That's
And
insanity.
so here's the thing. I'm actually going to do like a year-end recap. One of these, we've got like a month with no UFC cards. I'm going to
Right.
do like a full-on recap, invite everybody that watches the show to like come and, run through my entire year's betting history with me, figure out if they were, bad luck or bad bets, that kind of thing. And I think I've figured out a lot of what I've done wrong. It's not that they were necessarily bad bets. It was the sizing. It was spots like where I went for the Alexander Gustafsson bet. Maybe shouldn't have done it, but I did like a 5-unit bomb, should have been a 1-unit shot, where like I've dug my own grave based on sizing, not necessarily that my betting style is that bad, because that's how I've always done it. I've been profitable 2 out of 3 years before this one, and my ROI, my average line is always something up in the plus 200s, plus 300s. The plus money cancels out the L's eventually. You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
I have respect for it. Yeah, don't take that as me like ripping on you in any way. I have respect
No, not
for
at
it.
all.
Like I mean, dude, I see your card every time it's stacked up, and it's hilarious when you hit these crazy long shots and we get the reaction videos out of it.
Yeah, those have been few and far between this year. I need to get on track so we can definitely do more of those. But folks, we have had a nice little fun chit chat intro here. It is UFC 282. We're gonna dive into the card for you. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit that retweet if you're out there on Twitter. Get the word out here about the show. Of course, as always, the show is brought to you by Pub Sports Radio and Superbook Sports. I'm going to be quoting Superbook Sports lines the entire evening as usual. Connor, of course, if there's a different line out there that you want to quote, don't feel like you're tied down here. You're welcome to talk about however you want to, whatever fight, whatever book you want to use. That's totally fine. So not a problem. But our first fight of the evening, I mean, man, we're going to talk about this all night. It's like Dana White Contenders Series. This is a showcase card here. We have got Cameron Saaiman taking on Stephen Koslow. And folks, if you have been watching the show for some time here, you can be impressed by the shiny new kick-ass graphics.
I was gonna say, man, is this new? This looks great.
Brand new. Your boy's been working on them all day. I've been talking about it for like 2-3 months that I'm like, I'm tired of just using like Tapology's, fighter screen where it's showing the two guys in their name and stuff. And it just doesn't look good. So I'm like, time to step up the game, put in a little extra, elbow grease, make it my own. We got some sexy graphics for the people. So
I love that. Now be honest with us. How much time does that take to pull that off?
So you know what? I actually have an art background. So I'm quicker probably than most. Making the template for it probably took me about 2 hours just because I was brainstorming different ideas and different looks and things like that. But then inputting the individual stats like this for every single fight on the card, that's where the time added up a little bit. That probably took another hour. So I put a good 3-4 hours in effort wise on this thing to make this look a little bit better for you guys. And it's going to cost me an hour or two each week to update it, but happy to do it. I'm trying to put on the best show I can.
Man. It looks good.
Thank you. So I'm excited about this one, Connor. We got 2 undefeated prospects here. Stephen Koslow is 6-0. The weirdest name I've ever seen. His fight name is Obi-Wan Shinobi the Pillow. Like, what the? So I know he's like one of these nerd type guys. I respect it. I'm a fan myself. Star Wars, Naruto. I get the first 2 names we got, but where does the pillow come from? Like, how is that the end of your badass fight name? Now, we can't dog on him too much for the weird fight name because bro is 6-0 undefeated. All 6 wins by round 1 sub. Like, nobody's even given him a blip of pressure. He's run through absolutely everybody he's ever faced. So I'm not going to make fun of his name too much. He almost got the call to fight Christian Rodriguez, which I would have loved to see that. I'm super high on Christian Rodriguez, but he's been waiting for this UFC call for a while. He's a 10th Planet BJJ guy, cross trains over with Fusion XL. It's all BJJ. Slick, strong positioning, smothers his opponents, beats people up from the guard, good back takes. I mean, he's got IG videos up of him like tapping out black belts and stuff like that. Absolutely insane. Saaiman, we know from the Contender Series, he's making his pro debut. Won on the Contender Series round 3 TKO. Made his guy do like the full-on face plant, Connor. That's one of those ones where, Dana stands up and the crowd is oohing and awing because he just killed the guy in that 3rd round. He's nice and light on his feet, crisp hands, quick. Combinations are really slick, throws both straight and looping punches. I like the way he changes it up between those. So you're always guessing, you're never sure where the next shot is going to come from. Keeps a nice high guard Muay Thai stance, shows that knee, teep kick down the middle. This is a great fight. This is a great fight. And based on the odds I'm looking at here, we've got Cameron Saaiman a -275 favorite, Stephen Koslow a +235. Generally, Connor, I like to fade the Dana White Contender Series guys when they step into the cage for the first time because they're always taking a step up in competition. This isn't that. Like, this guy's also making his UFC debut, similar level of experience. I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around making Cameron Saaiman this big of a favorite. It's a dog or pass spot early for me, but that's mostly because there's just so many question marks around both these guys. We're really not sure where either of them are at. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, dude, you said it perfectly. I'm glad you started with that being a showcase. I feel like there is a few fights on this card that are like that, where there's just so many unknowns. There's, or just fighters that you can't fully put your trust in. I mean, yes, you mentioned it with Koslow. I mean, the Instagram posts, like how slick he is on the ground. No one's given him any sort of trouble. 6 wins by first round submission, that is. But it does kind of worry you. Like, he's never been out of the first round in his pro career. He seems to be the one trick pony going for the submissions in this one. I don't know if I can trust him at this short notice, even at this huge price tag. And then coming back on Saaiman, like, if you look at the dude, like, he's 21 and he doesn't even look like he's 21. Like, he is absolutely babyface. I'm not going to lie to you. He was supposed to get Ronnie Lawrence, and I was fully ready to fade the hell out of the Dana White Contender Series. I thought Ronnie Lawrence was going to smash him. Now at this point, it's what you said, man. There's just too many unknowns for me to make a play here, especially it being the curtain jerker.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, Cameron Saaiman looks exciting, but I went back and I did a little bit of digging. His competition level is awful, man.
Yeah, it's low.
His Dana White Contender Series opponent was 5-1, and that's by far the best guy he's ever fought. He's fought a questionable level of competition himself, obviously, before that. But the other records are 8-7, 4-4, 4-3, 0-2, 0-2. So, like, it makes me wonder just how good Saaiman is to command this kind of a line. It might be one of those spots. I want to see the weigh-ins. I want to watch these guys size up. If Koslow gives me the right type of vibes, if he's got, a size advantage or that kind of a thing, maybe I throw that, 1 unit degenerate dart on the dog here and see if we can get the big upset to start the night.
Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, it feels like a fight that Saaiman's going to win just because of the short notice for Koslow. But how will you be feeling -275, -285, almost -300 come Saturday if he just gets thrown to the mat and gets choked out in the first round?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the number is just too tough to play here. You would think that both these guys would be in that like -150, -165 range. But yeah, I mean, I'll just sit this one out, enjoy it, hopefully get some information for the next time they go. But yeah, I'm just going to sit back on this one.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with a pass, man. Absolutely nothing wrong with a pass, especially with these first couple of fights where there's a whole lot of questions to be had. Shout out my guy Kenton saying, what about the Oral-B sponsorship? Connor, stupid Tapology runs the Oral-B ads, so they were always popping up on my show, and I'm like, I'm not using them anymore until Oral-B pays me because I'm advertising for them.
Not just Oral-B, the ads on Tapology have gotten crazy. They've like developed it now. I think it's a Sonic the Hedgehog one lately,
Yeah.
And it's like see-through at some point, so you can click on, like, you think you're clicking on a fighter, but you click on the ad and it pops up. And like when you go to the homepage, it like delay lags drops down. I've gotten fooled by the ads more times than I can count on Tapology.
they're tricky these days, man. They're like, we're gonna make you click this link. You're not
Yes,
getting away from
literally.
us. All right. So mostly a pass for that first fight of the night. Both of us leaning kind of dog or pass if you had to have any kind of action. Next fight we want to talk to you about is going to be Vinicius Salvador taking on none other than everybody's favorite gas bag, Daniel da Silva. And Daniel da Silva, man, his last fight, we talked about how he's got such a rough gas tank and he was fighting at elevation. So it was one of those situations where it's like, oh my God, like you want to be nowhere near this guy because all he does is gas out. And if he's going to be up at elevation, it's just going to happen that much faster. Sure enough, round one finish, TKO, he's done. I don't know that we can hold it too much against him. He's going to look at least a little bit better than that. He's training how to shoot the box with, the champ Charles Oliveira. But man, it looks, if you drained the heart and the gas out of Charlie O, that's Daniel da Silva. He's got good offense. He's a glass cannon, man. Good offense, good striking, decent pop in his punches. The BJJ is slick. He can catch people and sub them. 100% finish rate, 5 knockouts, 6 submissions. All 3 of his losses by KO. Like he has nothing left to give after like the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like if whatever side you're on in this one, just go ahead and play it inside the distance. I mean, 33 professional fights combined for these guys. 32 have not gone to a decision. Only 2 times these guys have ever seen a third round. Like, come on, we're likely to see a finish in this one in front of the T-Mobile crowd. I just can't imagine that this one doesn't go to a decision. I love it too, being at the flyweights. I already played the under 1.5 at minus 190. I mean, it's just going to be chaos from the jump. I feel like fight doesn't go to a decision is a good parlay piece. I feel like I lean Salvador, but just watching back his contender series fight, while he did drop his opponent 3 times and get the knockout, he was getting hit, man. And I mean, like you said, the Silva in that first round is as live as anybody gets, even though he is 0-3. But he does have that finishing capability for the first 5 minutes.
Yep. Completely agree, man. The under is where it's at in this spot. Salvador, 11-4. He's also making his UFC debut. I mean, this should be the Dana White Contender Series fade angle for me, man. Fading these guys that come in overhyped. He's a minus 200 favorite. Big looping, wild hooks. But he's been knocked out twice. He's also been subbed once. So, like, I'm not convinced of anything with Vinicius Salvador. I don't think he commands this type of a favorite line. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Phil Rowe, where he's just got that tall, lanky, stretchy type of body. Doesn't mean he can't be had. You know what I mean? Relies on his head movement, plays with his hands low. I think you nailed it, man. It's violence all day here. Again, if anything, dog or pass. Like I would not waste my money betting again on Daniel da Silva. But if I was going to bet on anybody, I'm not laying 2-1 on Salvador.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like one of those like heavyweight fights that it's just like who's going to get caught first, who's going to get finished first, and laying minus 200 on Salvador when he could be the one getting finished. And you also have to remember, I know Daniel da Silva hasn't really impressed so far in his UFC career. You have to think this is his last shot. You lose your first 4, you're cut, man. Like this is all he's got. So, I mean, could come out and get the win and keep his UFC career alive.
Absolutely. And we've got Kadesh Dean calling me out saying, didn't Phil Rowe win though? Yes. I mean, physically, stylistically speaking, he reminds me of him, but we got Mushroom vouching for the full violence mode here. I love it. All right, everybody. We got 71 live viewers here in the chat tonight. Do us a favor, show some appreciation. I know you have to know who my guy Connor is. If you don't, give him a follow over on Twitter, show the guy some love, and of course, hit the like button here while you're at it. Next up, we are talking downtown TJ Brown taking on none other than Erik Silva. And I've got just big question here about TJ Brown. I think he found a loophole, Connor, because he's one of the Glory MMA crew, right? So they talked about how that entire crew is getting pulled from these cards. They're not allowed to fight or compete until this whole thing gets sorted out. But he's got like dual citizenship. He's training out of like 2 different gyms. So I think he's maybe sliding by on a technicality because he's like, well, I'm splitting the camp. I'm half Glory. I'm half, I think Westside MMA, I think is the other gym that he's training at.
Yeah, I mean they did let Marcelo Rojo, and they claimed it was a fair play rule just because of how, they made the announcement on Friday. Couldn't really just be like, you're out on Saturday because
I
you
was
trained with
okay
him.
with that.
Maybe because it's so close to TJ Brown's fight. That's why they're just like, yeah, just let it slide.
Maybe so. Maybe they're doing the same thing with him. And honestly, I'm all right with that, especially with Rojo. Like TJ at least was like a week out. Rojo was like, bro, it's tomorrow. Like you're already cutting
Yeah,
weight. Like
yeah. Yeah, come
I
on,
don't
man.
want him to lose, half a paycheck. And that makes sense. But TJ Brown, 16-9, taking on 9-1 Erik Silva. And again, it's the Dana White Contender Series debut situation, except this one, it's not exactly the fade because the rule for the fade is the Contender Series fighter has to be favored, Connor. We got to pick them. These guys are minus 110 apiece. So if you're looking at the odds, you've got minus 110 on either side. TJ Brown, man, I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with this guy. It seems like he's on the cusp of being good. He's decent everywhere, decent
Yeah.
wrestling, decent grappling. Seems like he gasses out, but he redlines and kind of pushes through and just keeps going anyway. Decent striking, but he's been, finished every way under the sun. 3 times knocked out, 3 times decision losses, 3 times sub losses. Man, I don't know quite what to make of this guy. 41% takedown defense, manages to survive in some of these scrambles, 9 wins by sub, generally another push the pace, kill or be killed type of fighter. Silva, though, dude, brutal, vicious ground and pound. Like, that's not enough to describe what this man does. If he gets on top of you, he is the most potent ground and pound finisher I've seen since freaking Bruno Silva. Like, he has no stop button once he gets on top of you. However, his Dana White Contender Series opponent was just 3-0. And that's another big red flag for me, that it's like he could not have looked better, but he had a massive experience edge on the guy that he was facing. He will have 3 inches in height. He will have 2 inches in reach. And apparently he's from Venezuela, man. That checks out. He reminds me of like that angry grit you see from Cheeto inside the cage. I don't want anything to do with TJ Brown. I don't want anything to do with Glory MMA at the moment. And frankly, I'm surprised this line isn't wider. I kind of thought Erik Silva would get a little bit more respect from the bookies.
Yeah, man. I mean, he opened at like a minus 220 or something. I thought maybe that was a little wide, but like I felt like a minus 170 or something like that. I am so glad that you brought in the ground and pound, that you brought that up. I mean, not only did I watch the Contender Series fight, but if you go back into the Lux, the league where he was the featherweight champion in, I mean, he's got some insane ground and pound. Like even when he's standing up and his opponent's trying to keep him away with his feet, he's reaching through, finding the chin there. Like he really does have vicious ground and pound. He's able to get reversals on the takedowns too. Now, yeah, granted, it wasn't the best of competition back in that Lux League. And TJ Brown is obviously going to be a step up in it, but I'm with you, man. I can't really trust TJ Brown here. He doesn't have the highest fight IQ of any of the fighters that I've backed before. And it feels like when he finds his success, it's when he's getting the ground game going, when he's able to mix in those takedowns. And just from what I've seen Silva in his recent fights, it feels like he'll be able to negate that a little bit. He struggled a little bit in the clinch game in some of those Lux fights. And this is a weird note, but like it says he got all first round submissions. I watched one of them. It was actually a second round. It wasn't as dominant as it sounded, but I still do like Silva in this spot. I mean, getting him at this price tag, I took him at plus 100. And I just feel like even money against the guy in TJ Brown that I don't really trust. And, if Silva comes out and proves to be what he's looked like so far against the level of competition in TJ Brown, it'll feel like a smart move. So yeah, I'll fade TJ Brown at even money.
Okay. I like it, man. I like it. Frankly, I'm looking that direction myself. I may join you because I think TJ Brown is ripe to get knocked out. I really do, especially with the way this guy brutalizes people on the mat. TJ Brown is out there working with Thug Nasty, so maybe we can expect a little bit of improvement from the grappling. But frankly, I think he's mid-tier at best. This is a changing of the guard spot where I think this Dana White Contender Series kid should slot straight into the roster.
Yeah, dude, and I mean, not even just the ground and pound. If you watch the way that he kicks, mixes in the kicks, like he's got vicious leg kicks too. He can get up to the head quickly. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see him fight. Hopefully, he doesn't let down in this spot.
Yeah. Hey, I am scared to get bit, Connor, because I don't usually buy in on these Contender Series guys.
It's tough, man.
In here. I'm putting my heart out there a little bit. Oh man. Hey, what's up? Shout out my guy Razor, Sharp Picks. Everybody check out Razor, by the way. Y'all know that I'm not the best gambler on the planet. I'm a guy that's just a degenerate trying to have fun, trying to win a little bit more than I lose. I tail Razor Sharp picks religiously. The man has been on an absolute tear. Follow him on Twitter, gives out a lot of info for free. So make sure you go and check him out. There's a lot of awesome handicappers here at Pub Sports Radio that can point you in the right direction. Next fight that we want to talk about is good old Ovince St. Preux. OSP making his return here to the UFC's octagon. Just a slight favorite over not Erik Silva. See, I'm still getting used to the new graphics, guys. That's my bad. Antonio Trocoli. And it's another Dana White Contender Series situation. But Connor, this one's even weirder. This one is even stranger than the last couple that we've talked about because Trocoli, 12-3, made his Dana White Contender Series debut back in 2019. Wins by a round 1 neck crank and then disappears. Pops for steroids, gets a suspension, fights once in 2021, finishes another guy in round 1. Here he is in 2022 making his UFC debut. So the UFC knew what they had with this guy. They've been keeping tabs on him, made him go back to the regional scene, get another quick win before they offer him the opportunity here. And again, I'm just curious why he's a pick'em here. OSP is an old dog, man. And this is an old dog that you need to put out to pasture. He's ready to go to the vet. We got to have that conversation with little Jill and little Jim. Like, he's going to go out to the farm and we're going to just let him spend the rest of his life there with a family that needs a dog because OSP is shot, man. His last fight, I watched him live at UFC Phoenix where he won that split decision over Mauricio Shogun Rua. It was a solid game plan. Don't get me wrong. Going to work with those teep kicks the way that he did. But I mean, Shogun is shot to bits also. That you can't be too impressed with him squeezing out that kind of a win. And he almost got hurt a couple of times. He was getting clipped by Shogun. I thought he was going to go down. He's lumbering now, Connor. Like the athleticism is gone. He's heavy on his feet, very thick, plods forward. If he doesn't catch you in the Von Preux choke these days, he's not going to get you grappling. That was always kind of the ace in the hole is he had that slick jiu-jitsu for a big guy. Not anymore. Trocoli seems like young OSP. He's got the same front kick. He's long. He's rangy. Likes to stab to the body with those teep kicks. He knows how to use that reach and that length. He's got good judo, so he can always reverse those standing situations and toss people to the ground. Immediately attacks with like arm triangles and back takes. You know, Rafael Dos Anjos had success with that over the weekend where you hit that transition for the submission before your guy is even fully on the mat, puts himself in a good position. And he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. This also, folks, we must note, because it's my angle, the Dana White Contender Series fade does not apply because Anthony Trocoli has one fight between his Contender Series fight and his UFC debut. So
he's also a minus 105.
Yeah. So, technically the underdog here. I don't see why we don't fade OSP here. I like Trocoli.
I mean, I cannot trust my money with OSP at this point. 39. You said it, ready to get taken out the pasture. You can't have any semblance of confidence. Uncle Weezy says that this is the 1-800-GAMBLER because Trocoli, right. I mean, the level of competition just is not that great there. I mean, but the fight before the Contender Series fight, he went to a 5-round decision with a guy that was 2-6. Like, sure, he has looked pretty impressive in the ground game, but it is also weird that they're putting Dana White Contender Series guy up against like the vet of all vets. Like, he's been around the game for forever. I mean, I'm just staying away. These first few fights are just guys that I can't really trust my money with. I pulled the trigger on some violence and one with Erik Silva. But other than that, I'll just sit back and I'll root for you on your Trocoli bet if you pull the trigger on it.
I'm tempted, man. I'm tempted. But based on Uncle Weezy in the chat, though, they might call the orderlies on me if they might call the orderlies on me if I pull that trigger. But I don't know, man. OSP is my full fade list at this point. I have no interest in ever backing him. I'm only ever going to be betting against him. And when you give me a guy that's younger, bigger, taller, longer, hits harder, has the jiu-jitsu chops, like great jiu-jitsu. One thing I will say, just as a pause for caution, I do a podcast breaking down the cards last week. My co-host, he was full fade Clay Guida. He was just like, he's done. He's washed, yada, yada, yada. Different matchup with Scott Holtzman retirement fight. But I mean, this guy was saying Scott Holtzman should look like he's minus 500, yada, 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 XYZ. And then, Guida pulls it out.
But yeah, if you're on Trocoli here, I'll support you with that.
I appreciate that. I really do. You need people in your life supporting you, especially when it comes to gambling. Now, man, I actually, hey, Guida saved my night. I got in live on Clay Guida
I saw
plus
that.
260, and
Nice. That is beautiful.
that made my evening, man. But that's one where it's like, the Ponzinibbio fight that got canceled with Robbie Lawler. It's like, well, you got two old dudes going at it. You can kind of make an argument for one of those old dogs, but this isn't that. This is the old dog and the young kid. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, RDA last week. RDA is 38. Like
oh
he
my
has
God.
4 years on Brian Barberena, and he just looked fantastic out there.
Dude, Connor, can we just take 1 second to appreciate RDA? That guy is
8 hours in the
a
cage, man.
ridiculous talent. And I feel so bad that he had such a tough time with like the weight management back in the day, because I legitimately believe that he was the best 155er on planet Earth. He never had a chance to show it. He had the belt for one fight, had bad weight cuts, forced him up to 170. Like, if he could have just stayed at 155 and managed the weight properly, I think he would have defended the belt 4 or 5 times.
I mean, just fights absolute killers, always puts on entertaining fights. Like, I mean, now like that win against Renato Moicano, I know it was on short notice, but the way that he just brutalized them now, I feel like that's just going to continue to age better and better.
Yeah. As long as they keep him out of the contenders ring, like, he's going to be the toughest gatekeeper 170 has. Because if he's fighting top 15 guys the whole time, like, you've got to be a motherfucker to get Rafael Dos Anjos out of there. So he will be a tough test for a lot of people. And if he's on the retirement track, I think he's going to win a lot of these fights, because he's far better put together than a lot of the other veterans at his stage of life.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We're going to keep the show moving right along. Next up, we have got none other than Alexander Hernandez, a man who I've had a love-hate relationship with since he joined the UFC, taking on Billy Quarantillo, Billy Q, one of MMA Twitter's finest, a very fun follow, really entertaining guy. The biggest thing that jumps off the page at me, Alexander Hernandez dropping weight. That is such a gigantic question. I mean, before we even get into the styles and what they do right and what they do wrong, like, Hernandez has always seemed like a blown up guy at 155 for me. Like, he's carrying so much muscle, but he's smaller than all of his opponents. And I thought that he would have like a cardio and speed advantage over several of them. Maybe he's got the speed advantage. He doesn't have a cardio advantage over anybody.
Speaking of Renato Moicano, go back and watch that fight. I mean, he looked so great in that first round. I remember watching that and being like, man, maybe I should have played Hernandez here. And then round 2, it was just fell off of the cliff.
Yep. That's the story of his life, man, is he's got one good round in him and he just falls apart in round 2. He's got multiple round 2 losses. Cerrone, Dober, Moicano. I mean, those are good names too. Like, you can't knock him for those losses. If you're not in that like semi-elite contenders, knocking on the door type of category, he knows how to stretch a fight. He's won a couple decisions against lesser guys. He can knock people out. But I got to wonder, cutting down like this, how's that going to affect the cardio? Like, is he doing more treadmill time to get his weight down, so maybe his cardio is actually better? Or is it just going to hamper him because now he's sucked himself out on top of having all that muscle? So many questions for me around Alexander Hernandez. And then, does the power translate? Because the way he hit like a truck at 155, if he can make 145 cleanly, he's going to have a massive power advantage over a lot of people down there. He's also going to be big. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage here over Billy Q. And Billy Q is one of these guys that makes his pace a weapon. He's got that stinging jab that just never stops. I mean, he busted the face of Hurricane Shane up in their fight. He did a lot of damage with just the jab and routinely puts up 110 significant strikes over the course of a fight. This is one of those ones where I'm like, it's your classic Alexander Hernandez fight. If he doesn't win in round 1, I think Billy Q just comes back and beats him up for the next 2 rounds and probably gets a late stoppage finish in that 3rd round. But damn, I don't know if I want to lay a chalky price tag against this guy to find out whether or not Billy Q can survive that first round at minus 165. What are you thinking here, Connor?
All right, so you started it off, Billy Q, MMA Twitter. I am a Billy Q supporter. I am biased here. I'm a fan of Billy Q. But what we were talking about with Alexander Hernandez and the cardio struggles, I think that Billy Q can last. I think he will survive that first round. And if it gets into round 2, I mean, you just said it. What does he use? He uses that pace. He uses that cardio as a weapon. I think he's just going to put it on him. He's relentless with it. You talked about, constantly landing 110 significant strikes in a fight. I mean, right now he is sitting at the most significant strikes landed per minute in featherweight history. Like if he's going to do anything, he's going to bring that pace. He's going to bring that cardio. He's going to make people go through the fire to beat him. I think we end up seeing him survive that first round. He ends up winning a banger of decision. The more I think about it, I don't even know how much he's going to have to survive. I think it's going to be a back and forth in that first round, and then he's going to take over the last 2.
I feel the same way. The question for me is Billy Q's coming off of a long layoff. He absorbed a lot of damage from Shane Burgos.
That's true. That is true. He almost 200 significant strikes landed, if I'm not mistaken, like 194 or something.
That style that he's got, it kind of lends itself to, I don't want to say a short career, but you know what I mean? Like these guys that take that damage. I mean, Shane himself is like a perfect example of it, that after a while, you just see that legendary durability start to chip away.
Well, not only that, but then the next fight out, Shane against Charles Jourdain back in July, he wasn't looking to stand and bang. Like he was trying, he was fishing for submissions almost the entire fight, and then he got done up bad in the 3rd round. I mean, maybe that is a thing. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe that's what we see here. And he doesn't really look for that, and he can't keep that pace. And he does get hurt, and he ends up getting finished. But I'm not going to side with that. I'm going to side with Billy Q doing what he does and getting it done. I laid him at -160.
I think that's fair. Absolutely fair. I think this is a fight that I don't mind violence again on this one, because either Hernandez starches him early, or I don't think he can keep up with Billy late. So I think one of these guys probably does end up getting finished. The only way I don't see that happening, which is like maybe the least likely outcome on this entire thing, is Alexander Hernandez is big enough and strong enough to hold Billy down and does grind out like a 15-minute decision. Billy Q only has a 57% takedown defense. So if Hernandez comes out with a conserving energy and lay on top of you type of game plan, which we don't really ever see from him, that's kind of the only way I can see that going wrong. But round 1, Alexander Hernandez KO. If not, I expect Billy Q to get the better of him. And heck, Hernandez might get his walking papers after this one, dropping a weight class, putting a rough run in the UFC, alternating wins and losses. Oh, I just noticed, Connor, alternating wins and losses. He's coming off an L, and he's been alternating for the last 8 fights in a row.
Oh, man, a win is due at this point.
For those of you who joined me with the tinfoil hat, Hernandez win is coming down the pipe on Saturday. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for spending your Monday evening here with us. We are powering through this awesome UFC 282 card. Do us a favor and hit the like button. Next up, my guy, the action man, Chris Curtis, makes his glorious return to the UFC cage. I cannot wait for this fight, Connor. He is taking on none other than Joaquin Buckley. 2 guys that are maybe a little bit undersized for the weight class. 2 guys that, tend to be a little bit brawly, and they were just like, shit, let's just fight each other. Like they struggle with these bigger, taller, longer guys. Don't want to cut down to 170. Just throw them in there together. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, pretty much all I have written down for this one. I haven't played anything yet. I know you love Chris Curtis. I know you've been on him at big dog price tags. I don't know if you're doing that here, but I would love for you to sell me on him.
Yeah, I'm frankly probably going to. Connor, I have never bet against Chris Curtis, and I got to admit that I made a mistake that last time, because I knew full damn well that Chris Curtis was not going to beat Jack Hermanson. I bet on him anyway, because he's been a ride or die guy for me. You know what I mean?
I have those guys.
But I'm realizing you don't have to bet the ride or die guys. Like, I can root my ass off for you, but I don't have to lose money on the fight that I'm not sure is going to go well. I knew it was a bad matchup. I knew it was a bad spot. The travel situation, the short notice multiple times in a row, like, it was just the worst case scenario for Curtis. And yeah, I do think he's capable of overcoming it, but I shouldn't have bet it. Like, I didn't need to put my money on it. This spot, on the other hand, I've frankly just never been completely sold on Joaquin Buckley. Like, these guys are very, very similarly built to me. Statistically speaking, These guys are, I'm going to go ahead and throw these sexy graphics back up for you guys so we can enjoy them here. Chris Curtis with the 58% striking accuracy, like this guy don't miss. Like, he's very careful where he puts his punches. And on the other hand, you've got Joaquin Buckley with a 32% striking accuracy. He's swinging and swinging and swinging, misses a whole lot, tries to clip you and catch you. He will have the 1-inch reach advantage here. We've seen D1 Buckley come out quite a bit. He's mixing that wrestling game, and it's not going to work here. Chris Curtis has a legitimate 100% takedown. Like, you're not getting Chris Curtis to the floor. So these guys are going to bang. And honestly, Connor, that's all it takes for me. Like, if you're putting two guys in the cage and saying they're going to bang until somebody falls, like, this is Phil Hawes all over again. The way that Chris Curtis rips at the body of his opponents, the way that he gets you to drop your hands and then goes up to the head, he just chips away at you. And he's got the Homer Simpson style where he'll find your timing and then start the counter. He'll take that first 2 minutes of the fight to figure out how you operate, and then he opens up. But he's very solid defensively during that. Like, he covers up well. He covers his body. He covers his head. He rolls with those punches. So this is essentially a brawling boxing match. I'll take Chris Curtis over anybody at that point, especially a guy who's similar to him in height and reach. I'm not sure why Joaquin Buckley is the favorite in this spot. Chris Curtis at plus 125 is more than likely going to get my money this week. And whether it's a decision because these guys can just not quite get each other out of there, or if it's a finish, we've seen Joaquin Buckley knocked out, I think 3 times over the course of his professional career already. Chris Curtis has only been knocked out once, and that was on that PFL night where they asked him to go in for the title after already having fought for a full, 15-minute fight against one of the best in the world. They put him right back in there. That's what it takes. It takes 2 men to knock out Chris Curtis. Like, I don't know that Joaquin Buckley is going to be able to get it done. Obviously, he's got that kind of power. I'm being a little facetious here. He can knock a lot of people out. That's how he operates. But I just think Chris is far slicker.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the takedown defense. Like, the Adolfo Vieira thing is all you have to go back and watch. I think he stuffed 20 takedowns in that one. And there is something beautiful about when Chris Curtis gets into a flow state against these guys. I mean, it really is a thing of beauty when he is striking at the highest level. I'm scared away a little bit by that performance against Jack Hermanson, just because Jack Hermanson isn't the greatest striker, and he did kind of what he wanted to in that one. But everything going around the fight, the travel, the short notice, the step up in competition, everything. So I do tend to agree with you. I've ridden Chris Curtis pretty hard. I mean, I might as well keep going. I got him at plus 143 right here. I think I'm about to lock it in with you.
Hey, plus 143 is a better number than I'm seeing. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that one bit.
Yeah, let's see. We got some props here. Fight doesn't go, minus 180. Chris Curtis by points, plus 400. That's not him,
That's interesting.
Wow, Joaquin Buckley, the more favorite to get the knockout. That seems interesting to me. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna ride Chris Curtis money line. I'm just gonna go with you and just ride it. I mean, he's a great dog. He's gonna fight for your money. Let's do it right now.
That's really the thing for me there, Connor, is that without a doubt you're going to get the best of Chris every single night out. He was just outmatched against a bigger, taller, longer guy in the big cage, mind you, against Jack Hermanson, where it's like Jack literally just jabbed and ran. He didn't know how to counter that. Joaquin Buckley, that's not something he's capable of. He doesn't have a 5-inch reach advantage. He doesn't have the footwork. Like, this guy is built to go forward. That's why we see him wrestling more often. That's why we see him always coming in and swinging those giant punches. Like, even if Buckley, and I do think he's evolving, by the way. I don't want to take anything away from Buckley. He is getting better. He's adding wrinkles to his game. But it took him, like, panic taking down Abdul Razak Al Hassan not too long ago to squeeze out a split decision win over that guy. And like I said, that's not going to work here. So if he gets stuck on the feet with somebody that hits as hard as Abdul does and he can't take him down, I just think Buckley is the right side.
All right.
I'm sorry, not Buckley. Jeez. I think Chris Curtis is the right side.
Yeah, I mean, I could see violence happening in this one as well.
Definitely. Because these guys are both, that we've seen them both finished. I think it's going to be hard to finish Chris Curtis. Like I said, it's only happened once. So I'm counting on him probably being the finisher. But there's nothing to say that Buckley can't knock out a mule the way he wings those punches, man. I'm never going to say he can't knock somebody out.
That's a fact.
All right, let's move along. We've got another Yeah, I was gonna say stud to talk about, but I mean, yeah, holes have been poked in the game of Edmen Shahbazyan, who's sitting as a minus 290 favorite coming in here on Saturday over none other than one of the guys that I've just kind of fallen in love with, Connor Dalcha Lungiambula. He's one of these aged, withered MMA veterans. Kind of reminds me of Chris Curtis a little bit. That I'm like, I want to see Dalcha win. Like
And
he's so fun.
an interesting love story here for you. I would have never tagged Dalcha as your guy that you love like that.
He's just fun. You know what I mean? He's this big, muscly, beefy dude. He's got a good attitude, knocks people the hell out, goes out on his shield trying if he can't get it done. Like, he's fun. He's good for the sport. He's good for MMA. But guys, like, I don't know if I need to break this one down too much. This is a get right spot for Edmen Shahbazyan. Like, the UFC went in so hard on this kid. He's just 25 years old, and they threw him to Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, and Imavov, like guys that are either former title challengers or in the contender circle or future champions. Like, they really thought this guy was on that level and ready for it. He got exposed in the grappling. He's been working real hard since he left, Edmen Tavarian's camp. He's been working real hard at his new gym on the wrestling. He tried to use some of that in the Imavov fight. Actually went relatively well for him until he got reversed and crucifixed. He even had the good submission defense, got out of the front choke. His gas tank looked a little bit better. His management looked a little bit better. Still ended up getting finished. But like, you're seeing the improvements from a 25-year-old kid. He's going to get better. And at the end of the day, he still has that world-class boxing, the hand speed, the power, the combos. He needs to get his confidence back. I wonder where his head's at. I wonder where he is mentally in this spot, coming off of 3 straight losses after being an undefeated hype train. Now, Dalcha, on the other hand, dude's old. I just turned 35. I can speak to the pain this man feels getting out of bed in the morning. So he's 35 years old, trying to cut down to 185 after being a former, 205er. That can't be good. That can't be something that helps him out. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. 3 of those 4 losses have been finishes. I mean, he was putting a beating on Cody Brundage until he just made the ultimate oops and gave up that front choke, starched by Hurulele Soriano. Like, I know he fought higher tier competition like Magomed. That's the guy that finished him. But these last couple of fights, you can just kind of starting to see the wheels falling off. Connor, I think the UFC has planned this spot because Dalcha can absolutely clip and starch Edmen Shahbazyan if he hits him the right way. It's possible. Edmen's too slick. He's not going to get there, in my opinion. Dalcha can out wrestle Edmen Shahbazyan. But can he anymore? Like, you go back 1 year and he can grind this guy. This is a test to see if his wrestling is caught up. This is a test to see if he can handle the explosive double legs of Dalcha Lungiambula. Dalcha also can match the gas tank, Connor. He is not great. He uses all that strength, all that explosivity, all that muscle. He doesn't last long either in a competitive back and forth fight. I think this is Edmen all day.
I think it's going to be Edmen too. I mean, you said it perfectly with the 25 years old. You have to assume that he's going to be getting better. He's working on that grappling. I mean, he came in as a hype train, but the biggest thing is, I know those last 3 losses were to top tier guys in this division, but do I want to trust him coming off of 3 losses at minus 300? I just don't know if I'm going to do that. I think Edmen wins. I think it's kind of what you said. I think that he's going to be able to avoid that shot from Dalcha. But I mean, maybe a parlay piece, like maybe a fight doesn't go to a decision. This just feels like a spot that I stay away from. Watch Edmen get his hand raised, and we move on to the next one for him.
I hear you. One of those ones where maybe he doesn't pay off the favorite price tag. Maybe, he drops around and somehow it's a 29-28 where you're like, he won, but was he minus 300?
Or he could make it look easy.
He could. The way that Puna landed on Dalcha, man, he's also making a quick turnaround. That fight was just 5 months ago. And I always wonder about the accumulation of damage in these types of spots. I wonder how much Dalcha can take after getting knocked out brutally twice. And now he's making a short turnaround against a guy with really fast hands. I actually would be interested in like the knockout prop for Edmen Shahbazyan.
Yeah. I mean, the 3, they're both on 3 fight losing streaks. MAB, Cody Brundage, and Punao Soriano is much different than Nasruddin Imavov, Jack Hermanson, and Derek Brunson.
No disrespect. There are levels to this shit. And
Yes.
yeah, if you're ranking the losing streaks, it's not quite the same thing. And I don't think that Edmen is even necessarily fighting for his job. Dalcha, I believe, is.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I think Edmen would stay around after one more loss. But man, it starts getting dicey from there if you give up an L to Dalcha Lungiambula.
Oh yeah. Now if he goes on a 4-fight skid and loses to Dalcha, I mean, they'll give him a contender series guy. They'll give him one last shot against like the lowest rung fighter they can possibly find and be like, all right, buddy, like silver platter if you want to stay in the UFC, here you go. But no, it's not far off. He really needs to get right. And I do think that's what the UFC is kind of propping him up to do here in this spot.
I mean, Edmen did knock out Brad Tavares, who has just a brick for a head, as we saw last time out against Duplessis. So I mean, I don't think it's crazy to think that he knocks it out. I'm the props are trickling out. I think I'm seeing it around like a plus 135 is KO prop.
Hey, if I was expecting like a minus 120, if I'm getting anywhere better than even money on the knockout, I think I'll probably have a taste on Edmen. And frankly, I know we're worried a little bit about trusting this guy at this point. You guys know me. I do listen to fighters. I do try to read between the lines. I'm going to listen to his interviews. I want to hear what he's got to say. I want to hear where his head is at coming into this fight. And frankly, I just think he wins everywhere. So Connor, as much as you don't want to run the risk of somebody who's potentially chinny or potentially gassy in a parlay, this is just such a perfect spot for him. I might have to throw those rules out the window and use him as a parlay piece because the guy he's fighting can't expose those holes.
Yeah, the more I'm sitting on this fight, the more I might lean towards fight doesn't go to a decision being a decent parlay piece. I think it's going to be juiced over minus 200, but that might be something to look into.
I don't mind that because Dalcha probably is going to come out fast as well, looking to try to get right in a big way. And here's the tinfoil cap selection here, though, folks.
Yes, please. I need to hear it.
Shahbazyan by submission.
He does have one submission win in his UFC career, plus 550.
The way Dalcha likes to throw in that blast double, the way he likes to go for the grappling, and the way Edmen's had that be his kryptonite his last couple fights, we may end up on the ground here in this one. And if that's the case, I think Edmen and the work he's been putting in, he almost caught Imavov in a guillotine in that last fight. I think this would be a spot where he can absolutely catch the extended neck of Dalcha Lungiambula, and it wouldn't be the first time. You know, if Cody Brundage can pull that off, I think an improving Edmen probably can too.
Brother, I am a professional at losing submission props. I think I've lost like 9 in a row now. I mean, it's just, you want to know how cursed I am? I was on Derek Minner by submission in the Minner-Norton backup fight.
Me too.
I can't hit a sub prop to save my life. It's got to be like a minus 130, like a Gelton Almeida going up against someone that just doesn't protect their neck at all. That's how I hit submission props.
See, you know what? I'm almost the exact opposite of you here, Connor, is that for me, it's got to be Walker at 12-1 for sub for me to hit it. If it's plus 250 or like even money, I'm not going to hit it. It's like all the signs are there. They wrap the neck up 2-3 times. The ref doesn't stop it. They squirm out. Like I miss those mid-tier sub props, but if it's 10-1 or better, I'll nail that sub.
Oh,
that's the one I'll hit. So
I've been fooled into a Jared Vandera by sub before. I mean, it's a lethal game out there.
Me too, Connor. Vandera this year has taken so much money from me. Let me tell you.
I love it.
He has been this close to winning every single fight he's had over the last 2 years that I keep going, he's going to turn the corner. He's going to turn the corner. And I just kept going back to it. It's like, shit, he never turned the corner.
Never turned the corner. I mean, and the footage of him backstage with Alexei Oleinik and like, he's like teaching him how to get the choke that he just performed on him. I'm like, this guy, like he's all into the BJJ. He's going to go for the sub, you know, don't stand and bang, just take him down. And yeah, he just has no interest in doing that.
He went full Holland on us is what he did there. That's a verb now, folks. Going Holland on somebody is not using your grappling from this point forward. All right, everybody. We are getting to the good stuff here. We're about halfway through the show, of course, joined by Connor Burks. Make sure you give him a follow. This is Pub Sports Radio. Hit the like if you haven't already. Do us a favor. It's the little bitty thing you can do to support us here on the show. Make sure, as always, guys, I do want to mention, check out Spectation Sports. They're doing some really cool things with regional scene MMA, offering betting and stuff like that on it. I do have a promo code. If you use Die Hard when you sign up, you can get a break on your first sign up fee over there to watch some awesome regional scene fights. A lot of guys that are coming onto the Contender Series are on Spectation Sports, so you can kind of get that sneak peek before they get to the big show. Next up, we have got Raul Rosas Jr. finally returning. He was just here. It hasn't even been that long. He's a minus 240 favorite over the man who is denying everybody, Jay Perrin. Connor, there is some serious Twitter action going here on this one. Jay Perrin has made no bones about the fact that he feels like he's being looked past in this spot. He absolutely is like, this guy can't finish me. The one thing I will give Jay Perrin credit for, the one thing, he's got a brick for a head, man. He ate some of the flushdest shots in his last couple of fights and just refuses to go down. He's a decent wrestler. He's a decent striker. He's actually got a half bad submission game on him. He's got a bunch of rear naked choke victories. That seems to be his best path to victory, but he can't defend a punch to save his life unless it's using his forehead. Doesn't seem to faze him. Doesn't seem to bother him one bit.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen everything on Twitter. Like, he feels very confident in this spot. And I kind of feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's fighting an 18-year-old. Just for me on this one, like I actually agree with Jay Perrin. I think he is tough. And after watching, Rosas on the Contender Series, like as dominant as he was with the control time and as slick as he was on the ground, he wasn't able to finish the fight. And that might be a spot where I think is minus 110, minus 120 right now for the over. I don't think that's a terrible play there as well. Just on the side, for me, it's just dog or pass. I mean, it's Raul Rosas, like, he's good, but right now that price is just getting huge. Minus 230, minus 250. This is an 18-year-old who, going from the Contender Series, I mean, look beyond that. Like you were talking, it hasn't been long since the Contender Series. 6 months ago, this dude was fighting on, regional scene in Tijuana, Mexico in front of 500 people. Now he's going to be fighting in front of 20,000 people in a sold-out T-Mobile arena, and he's 18 years old. Like, however good he is at MMA, like, he is still a human being and he is still incredibly young. He is incredibly green. And like, you have to wonder, like, is the moment going to get to him at all? And at minus 230, minus 250, like, this could be a bet if you parlay him up or if you just play him straight that you're looking back on and it's like, damn, I really laid minus 250 on an 18-year-old and he kind of crumbled here. I'm staying away from a side. I kind of like the over. I haven't played it yet or anything, but I feel like if you're getting a I see the comment on Daniel Zellhuber that gives me PTSD. I had Zellhuber in like 3 parlays. I mean, you talk about boneheaded, like, there it is right there. I was like, I cannot believe I put that guy in every parlay. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like this is a fight that if Rosas is winning, he's probably just racking up control time over the minutes.
I would tend to agree. I think Rosas is given, I think this is another handpick spot. It's another guy that he can physically bully. It's another guy that doesn't provide a whole lot of challenge coming back the other direction. Jay Perrin, you can't finish him. But he's not finishing anybody at the UFC level either. You know what I mean? Like, his boxing, decent. He's not going to hit this kid hard enough to really hurt him. I think he's going to be in scrambles. I think he's going to get back up to his feet. I think they're going to throw down. And as long as Raul Rosas doesn't do anything stupid, he probably just grinds his way to a decision. Now, this kid's BJJ, I'm incredibly impressed. I do have to shout out my guy, one of our previous guests, Brandon Olivas. He mocks me so hard whenever I use the term man strength that for me, I'm like, it's a real thing. Like, that there's a certain point in your life when you prime out that all of a sudden you go from boy strength to man strength. And until you feel that difference, like, you may not believe it, it's a real thing. And Rosas doesn't have the man strength yet. Now, I'm not saying he can't out control this guy. I'm not saying he can't out grapple this guy. He's not going to win the fight, that kind of thing. But there is that question of when he runs into somebody who can match that force for force, that strength for strength. I think he might hit that bump in the road, but I don't think Jay Perrin's that guy. So I'm going to pick Rosas. I'm going to side with the favorite here. And it's another contender series fade spot, right, guys? Like my favorite angle in the game is going to shit this weekend because every single one of these kids coming off the contender series is being set up for success. Like these are not the spots I want to be blindly tailing my Dana White contender series fade angle. So
yeah, I mean,
I'll side with the favorite.
It's one of those fighters that you hear it a lot with these up and comers where it's just like I'm gonna fade him, he's gonna lose eventually, fade train, or maybe this isn't the spot to fade him. Raul Rosas, as long as he stays in the UFC, if it's for years to come, he will lose eventually, and he will lose probably multiple times. I mean, that's just the growing process that he's gonna have to go through. I'm with you. I don't know if this is going to be the spot. It's not like Jay Perrin has been wildly impressive, and this is an incredibly daunting task for him to come into the UFC against. I just don't know if I want to lay, minus 230, minus 250 on an 18-year-old.
I hear you. And I'm with my guy Dirty Reg here, though, is the UFC is not setting this kid up to lose. Like he's the youngest kid on the roster. Everyone's so excited about him. He's so hyped. Like it would have to come down.
18-year-old, like he hasn't lost yet. He's so young. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a good storyline to have.
I could tell you guys stories about how stupid I was at 18. Like there's so many opportunities for this kid just to like mess this up himself. It's banana peel pricing. Like, yeah, it really would take him pissing this thing down the river for him to lose, but he's 18 and they choose to do that all the time.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, you could, oh man, I just don't know. I just like, it could be hindsight. And it's just like, damn, he rolled. Like he might actually really be the real deal. Or it could just be like, man, I really laid minus 250 on an 18-year-old. I'm just going to stay away from it. I might play the over, but I'll just sit back, watch, and see what Rosas has got.
Agreed. I'm going to pick him to win. I do think it's by decision, but I'm not putting my money here on this one. Shout out to my guy here, Erik Bets Fights. What is up, my guy? Thank you very much for jumping in the show here this evening. And shout out to all of you. We got 126 live viewers tonight. Really good turnout tonight for the big pay-per-view card. Thank you guys for listening to us break this thing down. Love and support each and every one of you. Thank you guys for doing the same back my direction. Big boys up next, Connor. Big boys. We've got Chris Daukaus coming in as an underdog after just very recently having watched his younger brother get starched, taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik, the minus 185 favorite here in this spot. And Connor, I'm a little bit like frustrated with myself about that one because I called the Erik Anders knockout. I called it.
Great call, because I did not. I
ended up playing the I was a little bitch, Connor. I played it safe and I bet the fight doesn't go the distance at plus 110. I'll take it. I'm having a rough year. I needed to get there, and I could see the chances for Anders to slip up. He's been subbed before, he's been caught before, that I was like, man, I know it's gonna finish. I'm just gonna take the plus money on the finish. And then he goes out there and does exactly what I said he would. Could have had that plus 185, could have had that plus 155. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, that was just one-way traffic the entire way. I've officially put a restriction on myself from betting on Kyle Daukaus. He has just let me down one too many times.
I'm almost feeling like it's a Daukaus Bros thing here, Connor. And I'll be honest with you. I've been a big fan of the Daukaus brothers. I've talked them up on previous shows. I've bet on them quite a bit, actually. But one thing I've always talked about is both these guys low-key are a little chinny. Like Kyle Daukaus, obviously more so. And Chris, you can give him a pass because he's a heavyweight. Like any of these guys touches you on the chin, it could be first to land every single time you step in the cage. So you can't really, fade him there. But like that Blades knockout, man, like Curtis Blades doesn't do that to a whole lot of people. And I know his striking is better than he gets credit for, but he doesn't like one punch people a lot. And Chris sat down. He was like, they just don't react well. I don't think these guys can take those big shots.
Curtis Blades decided that he wanted to come out and showcase his striking and prove that he can strike, and he chose to do it against Chris Daukaus. I do think that says something. I wouldn't even say that it's low key that they're a bit chinny. I mean, Kyle Daukaus wanted none of that fight after he got hit in the face a few times, and Chris Daukaus has obviously been knocked out in his last two fights. I mean, I think he's just a killer be kill fighter. I'm no genius here, but I love the violence. 16 combined UFC fights for the guys, 14 have ended in KO. Chris Daukaus has never been over the 1.5. So I did grab the 1.5 at -115. Jairzinho, the worry with him is that he's frozen, is that he just doesn't put out the volume. But I think Chris is likely going to bring the fight to him. He's going to be able to get the counters in. He's going to force him to be active. And I think someone is going to end up getting dropped. As far as the side, neither of these guys have ever completed a takedown in their UFC careers. So you have to think it's just going to be swing and bang until someone goes down. And in a strictly striking matchup, the kickboxing acumen of Jair Rozenstruik, you can't overlook that. I think he's going to be the better striker here. I think he's going to be able to find the button. And I think he's likely going to put Chris Daukaus out.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. I think that Jairzinho is actually a really solid spot this week, and I'm very tempted to lay the -185 on him, as scary as that sounds. People give him, a little bit of a shit time for being low volume, but we've actually seen him have a bit more of a sense of urgency in his last couple fights. But the nice thing about Jairzinho is he's a good soldier, man. Like, exactly what you're getting with Jairzinho every single time. Like, there's never been a Jairzinho fight that went differently from any of the others. He comes out, he makes you engage with him, and he looks to counter you with big power shots. And if you aren't willing to get into punching range, he will just wait for you to do so. So it might take till round 2 for him to find the button. He might actually go to decision sometimes, and that's not a great look. But look at his losses. Francis Ngannou, terrified, swinging for his life from range, got him in the first round to get him out of there. Cyril Gahn stayed the hell away from this man and picked and poked at him until he finally got the decision win over him. Same thing, Curtis Blades mixed in the grappling really well. Now, my guy Volkov did go ahead, come out and put a stamp on things and got him out of there, which was very impressive. But it's the massive reach discrepancy for Alexander Volkov. It's a guy that Jairzinho really couldn't touch. Now, in this spot, it's not quite the same story because, like I mentioned, you've got a guy in Daukaus that doesn't really move his head all that well, doesn't react to shots very well, and is small for heavyweight. He's got a lot of extra flab on him, man. Again, and not body shaming or anything like that, but I legitimately think that Chris Daukaus could drop to 205. If he got everything straight, I think he could make 205. He's going to be the one at the reach disadvantage here. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot. So Daukaus doesn't have the ability to stick and move and jab this guy to death and run away from him and have that work. He's a forward pressure guy. He's a BJJ black belt, supposedly. We don't see that in the UFC. Can he wrestle? Most BJJ guys can't take people down, blast double legs. They just aren't there. They rely on trips and throws, and that shit don't work on Jairzinho. He's got a crazy takedown defense. Like, you do not get Jairzinho down to the floor unless your name is Curtis Blades. I really think Jairzinho Rozenstruik might be one of the best spots on the card this week.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do, I've already played the under 1.5. I'll likely add Rozenstruik by KO. There is that chance that he does win by decision, but I just feel like the style that Chris Daukaus has, he's going to come up. He's going to bring the fight to Jairzinho, and someone is going to get put out. I just think that's because, let's say I don't hit and Chris Daukaus wins. I think if Chris Daukaus wins, it'll likely be in the first round. I think it'll definitely be the under 1.5. He hasn't gone over yet in 6 UFC fights. So I think that's probably going to be the way I go about this. It's fun doing it on heavyweights. It's a great way to end the prelims before the main card. It's just going to be a fun fight no matter what.
It should be. It should be a fun fight. One of those ones where you hold your breath because at any moment, it could all be over. You're not going to be able to blink.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yep. And shout out my guy Mushroom because, he's catching on that. I don't know, Connor, if you've seen, but I have a reputation. Somehow, some way, I've bet against every single Philly fighter in the year 2022, and I don't know how or why.
I've supported them lately, and they've kind of burned me. I actually went and got Philly cheesesteaks to bring back to my apartment for Pat Sabatini. I'm like 2 bites in, and he got finished by Damon Jackson.
You gotta.
I was like, wow. Do I even finish the cheesesteak at this point?
Oh no! Speaking of not finishing cheesecakes, Trocoli is out. We just lost another one. OSP doesn't have an opponent. Visa issues.
I'm not gonna lie.
Shit.
If we were gonna lose one, that isn't the most disappointing thing to hear. Losing Robbie Lawler hurt. Losing Yeri broke my heart. Losing Bo Nickel hurt. I can live with this one. It sucks to lose another fight, but man, this card at one point was looking like really contender for potentially being the card of the year.
Oh yeah,
And now it is the standard of it has
shambles.
severely dropped.
Man, I'm with you that if there was going to be a fight that could drop off, that one's fine. Like I'm far less interested in OSP than I am in a lot of these other spots.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep losing fights. Like this is where I'm like, who's going to step in on short notice to fight OSP that he'll agree to? Like I just don't know that he's going to get an opponent replacement. And now we're going to be down 3 fights going into the weekend. That I'm like, shit, man. Like last pay-per-view of the year, I want that 18 fight card. Like I don't want to keep having these things fall off. I hope they find a replacement for one or both of the fights that have dropped off, because that would be a bummer to have a short card for the last pay-per-view of the year.
Yeah, this will get us down to what? 13, 12
13.
fights now? 13. Sheesh.
Man, all right. And they couldn't do it, before we spent all the time breaking
Yeah,
it
I'm
down
glad we
and doing
talked
the tape
about
study.
that. The one that I have zero intention of betting on, and we did a nice little breakdown of it.
We spent a good 15 minutes of our lives that we'll never get back. All right, man. Next up, a lot of people's main event,
My main event for sure.
Ilia Topuria, Georgian Warrior, stepping in here against Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell, a plus 125 underdog. I mean, that does not happen often. Somebody's O has got to go, Connor. We've got 2 undefeated prospects coming up here. And I just want to hear your thoughts on this one. What do you make of this fight? This thing's fun.
Oh my gosh, fun is an understatement. I mean, there's so many different ways that this thing could end up going. I mean, if Topuria's got what 100% takedown defense, but who's tried to do it against them? Ryan Hall and Yusuf Zalal. I mean, these guys aren't, they're not going to come out here and tackle you. I think Bryce Mitchell has a higher chance of completing a takedown than those guys do. We haven't really seen Topuria like wildly tested with that.
I got the numbers for you, Connor.
Sure.
Zalal had a 31% takedown accuracy. He has since been cut from the organization.
All right.
And Hall had a 9% takedown accuracy. Hall hit 3 takedowns, and he has a 9% takedown accuracy in his UFC run.
What even is the Ryan Hall takedown? Like, it's just to go to the ground and then stare at you and ask you to come down with me. I love Ryan Hall. I love the wizardry and everything. He's an interesting watch. I won't necessarily say fun every time. He's an interesting watch, but yeah, I think Bryce Mitchell has a much higher chance of being able to get this one to the ground. Not going to lie to you, man. I think this thing is just a banger. I think both of these dudes are supremely talented. I think if one of them wins with a statement, if they get either a dominant decision or a finish, they're immediately in contendership in the featherweight division. Before the odds dropped, I was like, I might just lean with whoever ends up being the dog. And Bryce Mitchell ended up being the dog in this one. I mean, before that Edson Barboza fight, we heard a lot of people saying, like, man, he's going to struggle on the feet. Barboza's can crack. And he went out there and just dominated. It was just one-way traffic. It felt like he really improved the striking in that one. He ended up dropping him
that was crazy
at one point in the fight. And his IQ, man, he mixed in the takedowns perfectly. He was on Derek Clearly's card. He was a 30-25. It was just a complete domination. So at dog money, this isn't with supreme confidence. I have to get a bet down on it. I got to get a bet down on every main card fight for these pay-per-views. I mean, you just know how it is, the degenerate way. At plus money, I'm willing to back him and support Thug Nasty in this situation. I mean, Topuria is nasty. Like I can't sit here and be like, yeah, it's going to be easy for Bryce Mitchell, but I think he's an incredibly live dog, and I think he has a chance of winning this one.
Connor, Thug Nasty's fight IQ is so high. I'm starting to think he might have something going, and I'm coming around on the flat earth thing. Like that's how high his fight IQ is, man. He's showing some really good stuff in his last couple of fights, and the way he clipped and knocked down Barboza. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Khabib knockdown of Connor, where it's like you're so worried about the takedown that you're just not ready for the big overhand. But that was a clean one too. That wasn't like a load up for the skies type of shot. That was just a 1-2 down the pipe. I mean, I think his striking is coming a long way right now recently too.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was heavy on Bryce in that matchup, and I really was worried about the striking. And every time that he was getting into exchanges with Barboza, I was like, clenched up on my couch. But he just handled it every step of the way, man. I was supremely impressed. And I've ridden on Topuria hard. I did parlay him up at that first UFC London of the year. And I mean, not to discredit the dude at all, but when he got dropped by Jai Herbert, I was seriously worried. Jai Herbert does hit like a truck, and he did come back and end up, absolutely flatlining Herbert in the second round. So nothing to take away from Topuria. One other spot that I did want to mention there, he has had weight cut issues before. He got cut from, or he dropped off 270. He's posted to his Instagram like intense weight cuts. We've seen the videos from the Twitter. He is coming down to 145 in this one after we've seen him fight at 155. Like, if the weight cut is an issue, that's obviously going to play into Bryce Mitchell's favor.
Absolutely. And I want to see that weigh-in. Want to see the weigh-in, because that's a big question. The thing for me is he's so low to the ground. Bryce Mitchell is like 3 inches taller than him. And we always talk about how in wrestling, the low hips is actually an advantage. So him being shorter and stockier is going to make it tougher for Bryce Mitchell to get to those legs, get to those hips, get that takedown. And I think that could be something that causes a bit of an issue here. And I frankly don't want to step in front of my Georgians. Connor, I've been the guy beating the drum for the Georgians. And for whatever reason, I didn't cash 2 knockout tickets in a row on Roman Dolidze against guys who I love betting against because I got cold feet on that read. I don't think I want to step in front of Topuria. Usually I use the term fireball and popcorn as a bad way because you want to take a break and go get a drink. This is a good fireball and popcorn fight. I just want to sit down, make sure I got a good buzz going, and watch this fight and see what happens, because one of these guys is going to control it. And which one that is, I really have no idea, because if it's standing, I think Topuria, even with the improvements to Bryce Mitchell, unless he pulls a Brian Ortega on us and is suddenly the slickest striker you've ever seen after a layoff, I think Topuria's still got the striking advantage, clearly. And then if it hits the ground, I mean, if Thug Nasty gets 1 takedown, I think it's over, because he'll just chain from there. You know what I mean?
Because he is relentless on the ground, man. I mean, it's fascinating stuff, dude. Don't come back at me if, Topuria knocks him out in the second round or something. He makes it look easy and be like, dude, you said it was the lock of the week. Like, I don't say it with supreme confidence, because I really do enjoy both these guys. And I hope whoever wins does make a statement, does do it in emphatic fashion. And they really do, make a push at being a contender in the featherweight division, because I really think both these dudes are exciting and good for the UFC.
This is maybe the best built up spot we've had in a long time, where it's like, really, whoever wins this thing is going to be set up for a title run. And we know one of these guys has the talent to do it. They're facing each other at the right time. They're both still undefeated. High stakes, man. I love this shit. Instead of getting, one over on like a fringe top 10 guy that maybe shouldn't be there anymore and then getting the title shot. No, they're like, these are 2 killers. We're going to find out which one takes it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're going to do it for the press conference, but I have to imagine if they're at the press conference together, there's going to be some very good shit talking going on.
There has to be. They might need a little extra security for this one. I can't wait. I can't wait for this one. Everybody, just so you know, we're going to have Monday Night Football kicking off here, and your boy has to have the degenerate action. I am going to go for Chris Godwin anytime touchdown, plus 188, and I'm going to just throw a little sprinkle on Godwin for 2 or more touchdowns at 10-1. Just, that's where I'm at.
I love it. When I have the game on later and Chris Godwin has 3 scores, I'll be sure to be hyped for you.
I'll be feeling good. If he hits that second TD for me, I'll be feeling real good. All right, man. Next up, oh boy, we've got Dricus Duplessis, minus 170, taking on the Vanilla Gorilla. Maybe just the Gorilla now. I think he took the Vanilla off. Darren Till, plus 150, your underdog here in this spot. And Connor, real quick, I've got to take this one, man, and I've just got to go off for a minute because
I'd love to hear it.
I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. Frankly, Darren Till has never been elite. Back when he got his start in the UFC, he got that run going. He was a size bully. He was facing either non-UFC caliber competitors, or he was facing undersized, aged veterans. This is a guy that could barely make 170, didn't make 170, and he was facing guys like Donald Cerrone, who's a 155er, moving up to 170 to fight out at the end of his career. Absolutely robbed a couple of decisions. And his only wins are over guys that are either retired or no longer in the organization and were flashes in the pan at best when they were in the organization. Darren Till is simply not that good. He's Sam Alvey. He is low volume. He is reliant on his power. And the good thing that you can really say about him is he has good takedown defense. It's hard to get this guy down to the ground, but you can out volume him, you can out technique him, you can out strike him. He is 1-4 in his last 5 against elite level competition, and they really just rushed him to get to the title because they thought he could beat Woodley. Tyrone Woodley knocked this man down and choked his ass out, if that tells you anything. And up at 155, he's been even more disappointing, getting taken out by Derek Brunson. Obviously, the decision to Robert Whitaker, there's no shame in that. But the Kelvin Gastelum split was another extremely close fight. This is the last hurrah for Darren Till. And he made best friends with Khamzat Chimaev. He got some rub, some stars, some shine there. No idea what happened to Chimaev the last couple of weeks. Completely disappeared. He's not hanging out with Till when he's getting ready for the biggest fight of his life. Suddenly that bromance is out the window when Till needs his man most. He's taking on Dricus du Plessis. And here's the crazy thing. Like, after saying that Till is just simply not that good, he has never been that good. He was rushed to the title so the UFC could, wave that flag and expand to his region because he did good pay-per-view numbers. He might knock Dricus du Plessis out. Man,
wow, what a heel turn. What a heel turn there.
Dricus is not defensively sound at all, Connor. Like, this guy blitzes in with his chin up and his arms down and fires 4 and 5 punch combinations at a time. And he got rocked by Brad freaking Tavares twice in the first round. Now, the one thing that I always say about Brad Tavares is he should never knock anybody out. He's a pillow fister. He has no punching power. He's strong with his technique. He's slick, but he's a decision machine. And if you get knocked out by Brad Tavares, it's a black mark on your record as far as I'm concerned. And it almost happened to Dricus in that first round. Now, he's a freak, like, physically speaking, crazy power, crazy explosive. He's got that K1 champion kickboxing background. So he knows what he's doing on the feet. Sort of. He's very awkward the way he throws those punches, but he will be 1 inch taller. He will have a 1 inch reach advantage. And it's just those blitz attacks that worry me, Connor, because the one thing that Darren Till does have going for him is he's got that 58% striking defense. He's pretty tough to hit, and he does like that fadeaway left hook. This is another perfect setup where, unless Dricus does something differently in this fight, unless he does something different from what we've seen him do his last 2 UFC fights, that fadeaway left hook is going to be there for Darren Till. So I can't lay the chalk on Dricus, even though fading Darren Till is like the thing I love most in life right now when it comes to UFC betting. I cannot do it because if Brad Tavares can counter you and put you on stanky legs, the one thing Darren Till can do is hit hard if you give him the opportunity. So I don't know what to do here, man. What do you make of this fight?
All right, one thing we have to go back to is the comparison of Darren Till to Sam Alvey. What's the math there?
I mean, Sam Alvey is a guy that you could not take down. He'll skirt the outside of the cage, and he'll try and land one haymaker to put you away. He can't win on volume. If he can land 3 knockdowns and steal 3 rounds in a row, that's the only way he wins a decision. That's the same thing with Darren Till. Like, he has to be the guy landing the visibly harder shots to be able to win those exchanges. Volume fighters are going to beat him all day, every day, unless you've got that one dumbass boxing judge, Chris Lee, sitting back there that's like, yeah, he hit him harder, so the guy that landed 1 strike to the 5 is going to win this round. Like, that's the only way he wins decisions. He's got to knock his man out, really, to get that win, or knock him down to steal the round. And that's really what that comparison was kind of based on.
Yeah, so for me, I actually like violence here for everything that you said. I mean, Dricus just runs in wild. I mean, what I was thinking on it is, what Darren Till are we going to get? What is Darren Till going to look like in 2022 after a 15-month layoff? Like, how is he going to come into this one? Where is Khamzat? How is he training?
For 2 years.
Yes, I mean, like, we've got these DUI allegations, the pictures with the messed up eye. He's very injury prone. What is he going to look like inside this cage? I have no idea. What we do know, Dricus du Plessis is going to look like is probably a madman. I mean, his fights are chaotic. Yes, his last one did go to a decision with Brad Tavares, but that's because he was fighting blockhead Brad. I mean, it looked like he should have gotten him out of there multiple times. Rest of his career, he never goes to the cards. I mean, he makes fights chaotic. I think he's going to bring this fight to Darren Till. He is not going to let him sit, plod, be low volume. He is going to force him to maybe land that left hook counter that you were talking about. I mean, it might be there. He does walk in there wild with a madman with his chin on a platter for these guys. And Darren Till does have that ability to put people out. So I think one way or the other, I think someone's going to end up getting finished in this one. I mean, it feels like of late Darren Till too. He doesn't really have like that dog in him, like they say. Like it feels like he's willing to give in and have the fight end. Now, with everything said, I got a soft spot for Dricus du Plessis. I just love the way he fights. I went back and watched a bunch of his KSW fights too. I played this at an opening price of -114. I've been sitting on it for a minute. Nice. I ride with DDP. If he does get knocked out, I'll have that violence play and it'll kind of even out. So I guess a worst case scenario for me is Darren Till by decision. But like a lot of these fights on this card, man, there are just so many question marks surrounding Darren Till. What is he going to look like? Is it going to be a rejuvenated Darren Till and he looks great and he gets on the mic afterward and he starts talking about how he's going to make another run to the title? Or, is it just going to be, what was that? I mean, why were there not many improvements over all this time? Are the injuries getting to him? Is he past his prime at this point? I don't know. There's just too many surrounding it. Main card fight, got to have action. It's
I hear you.
Degenerate way. So I'm riding with DDP and I'm riding with the under.
Okay. Hey, if you got in on DDP early, like you said, that's great. I mean, the man's sitting close to -200 in some spots right now. Like money is flooding in on him. And you know me, man, it's at that point where I might have to fade the market, that it's like, if you give me +200 on Darren Till, like this is a coin flip. This is a literal coin flip. They opened it up, pick 'em for a reason. If you got in early on DDP, you did your job. Like gambling, hang it up. You're good. Like you don't need to put anything else on this fight. But anybody looking to enter now into the market, it's too late. Like the only thing you can do is fade the other way. See how high this line goes and bet Till and hold your nose and hope he's got one left in him. But yeah, man, I have a hard time getting to the window on this one because Till did go out to Tiger Muay Thai for this one, which best MMA camp in the world, maybe. Like I love Tiger Muay Thai. That's a great sign. Lots of good bodies and training partners. If he's been working his wrestling, with Hamzat, this could be a spot where maybe we see him shift gears and maybe he comes out as D1 Darren Till and he tries something different. We don't know. There's so many questions in this spot. And like I said, there is always that haymaker left hand. I think Darren Till's got paths to victory in this fight. And I think we've maybe gone overboard on this line. I think this line movement is a little much just because everyone is seeing the same things and piling in here against Till. I want to fade him too. I'd want to fade him at even money though.
I actually agree with you. And we'll talk about it on the next fight. Like the price is everything in gambling. And if it gets blown out enough, you can clearly make the argument for Darren Till. However you believe he got to that title fight, this guy did fight for a title. Like he does have skills. He was, an undefeated prospect at one point. And if he does have something in him, I won't be shocked. But for me, putting my money there are a ton of unknowns surrounding it.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. And I just need to distance myself here, Connor, because apparently we have James Krause.
Let's go, JK. What's good, man?
That's
the 1% club afterward too. That's fantastic.
Offering it up freely in the chat. I love it. All right, everybody. We are moving along. Next fight up. We're getting to your co-main event of the evening. Paddy, the baddie, Pimblett, taking on Jared Gordon. And the first thing I gotta say on this thing, Connor, is the UFC's countdown piece is beautiful for these two. Like
I haven't watched it.
If you guys haven't,
I have to watch it.
You have to. You have to. So, putting the fighting aside for a second, you guys all know where I stand as far as make sure you surround yourself with good, positive people. If you need help, reach out, get the help you need. Don't suffer silently. Don't be too strong. Both these guys are coming in with massive causes, and the UFC is steering straight into it, and I love it because there's a mental health crisis in our world today, and we gamble for fun. We gamble for fun here, but there's so many people out there suffering, and it's the time of year where there's a whole lot of suicide and depression. And I love that these guys are making it a spotlight of their fight this weekend. Paddy came out and had, a buddy of his pass away due to suicide. He made a point to bring that forefront and talk about that in front of a giant crowd. And that was a wonderful move. And then Jared Gordon is a former addict, a guy who OD'd and nearly died and turned his life around and got right. He's a real success story. Somebody who could have ended up in a ditch years ago, found a way to turn his life around, won all of his family members back. He's in a good place now, and he's using his platform to help people. I love it. And the UFC did a really good job of spotlighting that in their video this week. So please make sure you guys go and watch that. Back to the fight. It's Paddy season, guys. Like, I'm sorry. Most of you know I'm a giant Jared Gordon hater when it comes to sports betting. He's a little undersized at 155. And I think that's a big deal. He can't quite, he's a Rafael Dos Anjos. Like, he can't quite get the cut to 145 right. But at 155, he's just not quite big enough. If you're like that mid to low tier guy, he will grind the brakes off of you. No problem. I thought he lost the fight against Joe Solecki. It was a split decision. It was close. It is what it is.
Nah.
But, his wins over Dan Moret, Chris Fishgold, Danny Chavez, busted ancient Leonardo Santos. Like, those are the guys that he can fight. If he takes even just the slightest step up beyond that, he's losing to anybody who's got that legit upside. Like I said, except for the semi-robbery Joe Solecki fight. It was close. I won't call it a robbery. It was a fight that I think
it was very close. I was on Solecki plus 130, and I was hurt after that one. I thought he got it done.
I was frustrated. I thought he did enough to get the nod. But again, close fight, can't complain too much. The thing with Jared Gordon, he's just that grinder, man. He will put that pace on you. He's got a great gas tank. But we saw, like in the Grant Dawson fight, if you get a guy that's slick at grappling, he can reverse those positions and he can put you in a bad way. This guy's been knocked out several times, and it's always that chin that I go back to. 5 of his professional losses, all by finish, 4 of them by KO. Paddy the Baddy, he is young, he is tall, he is long, and he hits hard. Like, he showed off in his UFC debut. It wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty, Connor. He threw caution to the wind, ate a couple big shots, got chin checked, proved that he's got some durability that he can lean back on if he needs to. But he also showed that he's got fast hands and he's got stinging power. And if he goes out there against a guy like Jared Gordon, who is not a power puncher, I just think this is a spot where there's not much coming back the other way. If he wants to go out the same way he did against Luigi Vendramini, I don't see why he can't do kind of what Charlie O did. I don't see why he can't just put that relentless pace on early on a guy like Jared Gordon. And if he does get taken down, Paddy's actually a primary grappler. This guy is very slick when it hits the ground. So it's not like he's afraid to grapple with somebody like Jared Gordon. I know the price maybe has gotten a little bit out of hand. This opened up a decent bit closer. A lot of people are using the logic I used in the last fight and jumping on Jared Gordon as a dog. Sorry, those odds are messed up there, guys. He should be plus 200 here in this spot, not a minus 240. I think that Paddy runs through this guy, frankly, Connor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you on like the price getting blown out, similar to what you were saying in the Darren Till fight. Like, if he's a guy like Sean O'Malley that you just know going into it, Conor McGregor that going into it is just going to get money poured into him, and the line is going to adjust to that. Like, if you like Jared Gordon in this fight even a little bit, then just sit around and wait till Saturday afternoon, and there's a chance that you're getting him at plus 250, maybe a plus like 280. Like, no number could surprise me. I mean, I took Piotr Jan against Sean O'Malley, thought I got a great line, and then it ended up being a bad line because of how many people just hit O'Malley there and brought the number back down to earth. So like, if you're going to play Gordon, and I think there is a world where he wins this fight, like if he just is using his clinch game and just using that pressure, like he can win the fight. I think this is Paddy's toughest test. But if you're going to do that, I would just wait. I would just wait and see how high you can get that number. Just kind of watch it go up, because people are just going to continue to play Paddy. He has this massive fan base that, and it's like the sort of like the barstool culture. Like, it's going to be a bunch of people that will just blindly tail him because they know they're fighting. They know that Paddy is fighting. And you mentioned it, the Luigi fight. Like, it wasn't pretty. It's chaos. Like, that's just what Paddy Pimblett is. Like, it is just chaos. And I feel like he operates well in those situations where Jared Gordon is looking to sort of just control the fight, win by decision. When he does take these step ups, we see him struggle a decent amount. I think Paddy gets it done here. I know a lot of people are under that, that guard of fade him till he loses. This guy's going to lose, kind of like an Ian Gary type. One thing about Paddy Pimblett, though, is that he doesn't get these monster lines. Like, if you're going to be fading him, you're going to be fading it like a plus 200. So, like, if you end up trying to fade this guy 5-6 times before he finally loses, like, you're going to lose out. I don't know. I don't have wild confidence. Everyone that I'm hearing that's saying they're fading Paddy Pimblett here with Jared Gordon was doing the same thing when he fought Jordan Levitt. I think Paddy gets it done, likely inside the distance. I like the there is a sports book out there that offers the point spread -3.5. You're covered if he gets the finish, and if he wins all three judges' scorecards combined by more than 3.5, obviously 4 or more, then you win there as well. I think he gets it done, and I think he likely gets it done inside the distance as well.
I would agree, man. And at 27 years old, he's still at that age where he's going to be getting better. He's still at that age where he's going to be rounding out. And it's not like, Molly McCann in her last fight, the UFC knew what they were doing there. They were capitalizing on that hype and feeding Blanchfield. This is the exact opposite. Paddy is the star here. They are looking to spotlight and shine this guy. And I tried, I'm the biggest Sean O'Malley hater around. I've always been the guy looking to get on the other side of Sean O'Malley. But you know what? The fact is, he played it perfectly. He was a young talent. He was a kid with a high ceiling, and he squeezed by those questionable spots where, maybe he could have or should have lost. But he found a way to get by those spots, and now there's no stopping him. Now it's too late. Now he's well-rounded. Now he's good. Now he's at the top of the division and fighting evenly with a guy like Petr Yan. Like, I think that's going to be Paddy's story as well. They're bringing him along at the right pace. He fought guys like Vargas, who had no chance whatsoever on the ground for him to be able to expose that situation. He fought a guy like Jordan Leavitt, who, while is somebody who we respect on the ground, really doesn't have a whole lot going on the feet that you had to worry about. Paddy struggled a little bit in that fight. I think, again, that's kind of a Khabib situation where you're expecting the grappling, so you're not really ready for the striking in that type of matchup. And again, they're giving him a step up, but it's another guy that's relatively harmless. It's another guy that, worst case scenario, is going to hold him down for 15 minutes. It's not a guy that's going to starch him on the feet. It's not a guy that's going to, heel hook him. So I think it's another appropriate step for him.
Give me a Paddy win, and then he goes and fights Steamroller Favola on the Usman Edwards 3 card in London in like an open air stadium. That's what I'm trying to set up here.
Connor, what do you do there? Like, how can you ever bet against the Steamroller? Like,
that's what I'm saying. And you talk about an exciting fight. Just cheer for both of them, hammer the unders, whatever it is, and just have an absolute fantastic time, because that's what would happen. I mean, Paddy this week, how can you cheer against the guy that wants to clean up a proper sloppy shit from his dog for someone?
Agreed. That was one of the funnest videos I've ever seen, man. I love
dying,
that he
dude.
goes up and apologizes and
says
it
like
multiple
25 times.
That was great. Paddy, you know what? Paddy talks a bunch of shit, but he's like legitimately sees like a good guy to me.
that is the thing. Like, it feels like with the way that he like kind of acts and like the way that he talks, he does feel like kind of, like he thinks he's better than everyone. But then like when you see his actual personality, it feels like he is a little bit of a down-to-earth dude.
It's kind of the opposite of Connor, right? Like Connor will talk all the shit and is a ripe asshole outside the cage, whereas Paddy is like he's a marshmallow. Once you get him out of the cage, he's all gooey inside.
Give me the McGregor audio messages on Twitter all day, though. Every time I see one of those pop up, I can't wait to listen to it.
Oh my God. Oh, that guy. Please give me Conor McGregor versus Rafael Dos Anjos. I want to see it. It's never going to happen. No. All right. Main event, everybody. Main event time for your vacant 205-pound title. I am sad to say. Magomed Ankalaev taking on none other than former UFC champion Jan Blachowicz, the legendary Polish power man himself. Guys, I have been on this show many a time saying that Magomed Ankalaev is a guy that I'm not sure is the second coming, the way people make him out to be. Now, maybe it's just me being stupid and fading a scary Russian one more time because it's what I seem to do. But again, I think there's holes in his game. There's a reason his loss was to Paul Craig. Like he's got those gaps. And I do think some of these higher tier caliber opponents are going to be able to take advantage of those spots. He struggles in boxing range. That's the big thing here for me, Connor, is that go back and watch like the Dalcha Lungiambula fight. He gets tagged. And even in like the Ion Kutalaba fight, He gets tagged a couple times. Like, it's that distance. If he stays at kicking range, you're fucked. If you get inside that reach in that range, he's not quite as sharp in the boxing range. And I think that's exactly where Jan can shine here in this spot. The big concern for me, again, is the grappling. Magomed Ankalaev is far more striker than he is Khabib when it comes to your Russian fighters. When he gets on top of people, he's a beast when he gets on top of people. But guys, he shoots less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes. He shoots officially 0.94 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he only lands at a 33% accuracy. Now, Jan has a 66% takedown defense. He's been exposed there before. You can take Jan down. You can sit on top of this guy. Even in his last fight against Rakic, he lost the second round because he got taken down early and just never got back up. He spent the entire second round off of his back. Jan has some underrated jiu-jitsu. He's willing to play there from his back. He has 9 submission wins. You know, you think about this guy as a big-time striker. He's actually a very decorated grappler. But he hits hard as shit. The legendary Polish power thing was something we all laughed at, and then he started knocking people the fuck out. Like, 3 of his last 4 wins are by KO. Now, you want to go back and be like, well, it was fluky against Rakic. Well, it was Dominic Reyes, who now we have questions about. Well, it was Corey Anderson, who we know is kind of chinny. But, like, it's the speed, guys. It's the fast hands that really gets it done. And Magomed Ankalaev is a guy that I have questions about in a 5-round fight. Now, he did go 5 rounds against Thiago Santos. He showed us that he can go 5 rounds. But again, that was one where he refused to get close to the power puncher and just kind of picked and poked at him from range. The striking numbers are pretty close. Thiago landed 60 significant strikes to Magomed Ankalaev's 78. It was a beautiful display of fight IQ.
He got dropped in that one.
But he got dropped in that one.
Yeah.
And Jan is not a guy who's going to sit back and let you kick his calf for 20 minutes and just let you off the hook with that. In fact, Jan is a guy who really chops at the legs of his opponent. He likes to work his opponent's legs and body with those power kicks. I just think Jan Blachowicz is incredibly live here, Connor, especially at this number. We're getting a good opportunity with a world-class fighter to really test Magomed Ankalaev and see if he is legit or not. Magomed can win. Magomed should be the favorite in this spot, but I think this line is too wide. And Jan, one of the things he talked about in like his embedded thing is he was sick coming into the Glover fight. And Connor, I couldn't tell you, I was floored by how that fight went because
Me too.
I've been a fan of Glover. I love Glover. But I've been making money hand over fist backing Jan for the last couple of years. And I was like, that's not Jan. Like the fight with Glover, he looked off. He fell apart so quickly. Something was wrong. And Jan is not the type of guy to make excuses. So 2-3 years later, it comes out, or not 2 years, but like a year and a half later, it comes out. He's like violently ill just before the fight and is too proud to leave Glover hanging and pull out. So he took his L and lost his belt. I'm like, that explains it. That right there is enough for me because this is a man who carries around a piece of rope that he found from a dead man hanging in a tree. He's not going to make some shit up about being sick when he lost his belt, and he violently wants it back. I think Jan can win this fight, Connor, and I think I'm probably going to end up betting him on Saturday.
There's absolutely no doubt that Jan Blachowicz can win this fight. I mean, legendary Polish power. He's going to bring the fight to Magomed Ankalaev. Now, here's where we do disagree. I do think Magomed Ankalaev is the real deal. You did mention that Paul Craig fight. Domination up until it wasn't 1 second short of being 19-0. And if he's 19-0 and his name is Magomed Ankalaev from Dagestan, he's this mythical fighter. He might be lined at -500 this weekend if he's a 19-0 Dagestan going into this one.
He got memed.
But here's what I do have to say. I am biased as shit in this main event. My Magomed Ankalaev to be champion at the end of 2022 plus 1,000 ticket came back from the dead about 2 weeks ago now when this happened. I took 2 tickets in the light heavyweight division. Yuri plus 275, Magomed plus 1,000. I guess my Yuri plus 275 had to die, so my Magomed plus 1,000 could live, could walk, could run. So I'm riding with Magomed. I mean, I'm just blindly riding him. There's no talking me out of it. I'm not going to try and hedge out of it on Jan. I'm just going to ride and die with my guy. Post a picture of him looking like just the OG, where he's just rocking all black on the giant black horse. Like, you just don't get any more intimidating than that. I'm not going to sit here and, break down everything about it. The way Jan wins the fight is everything you mentioned. Like you just get it at boxing range and you just blast them and you just don't allow them to stay at that kicking range. And I'm just going to hope that doesn't happen. I'm going to hope that I can see Magomed get his hand raised and I can cash this plus 1,000 ticket.
And dude, you have got to be just like, I know we're sad we lost the main event, but doing cartwheels that this absolute thunderbolt from Zeus himself was like, cash yours 11-1.
I mean, dude, no, like I was feeling decent about the Yuri ticket. I was unfortunate that they had to fight again, but like, yeah, everyone was like, damn, dude, the Yuri ticket's gone. The Yuri ticket's gone. I can't believe you vacated. And I was like, I got the trap card, Magomed. I obviously, I took these back in January. Like I obviously gave them out then. But yeah, I mean, I can't believe that we're in this situation. Watching the Santos fight back, him getting dropped does worry me a little bit against a guy that is as low volume as Santos. And like Jan's also just the man. Like he's hard to cheer against. Like he's just so nice. Let me get Jan and Steven Wonderboy Thompson at the lunch table with me, and like let's just have a nice off on who's the nicer guy.
That seems like a good plan. I watched the embedded episode today where he was like trying to find like a natural frozen lake or something like that he could do his recovery bath in, and he's like hiking and stops some random stranger who doesn't speak the same language as him, and he's like, he's okay, we hiking, we no phones, we with friends, it's good. Like it's like they didn't ever find the thing, and he spent like 2 hours in the wilderness. It was like, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he loves getting out of nature. Like the video of him dancing in the club, like yeah, Jan's he's just a true mensch, man. He's hard to cheer against, but I will be doing that on Saturday evening.
That's fair. We got a little head to head here in the main event. I'm definitely going to be
We needed
Team Jan. We've agreed a lot tonight, Connor. We really have. We probably did need to have one where we disagreed a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always good to have a little dispute into it. Even though mine is just blind bias here. I'm not going to hit you with all the facts that you need to know.
Mine's got a little bit of bias back in it as well. You win that many times with one guy, and it's hard not to go back to the well sometimes.
Kai Kara France has cashed a few hefty dog tickets for me, and I can just never quit the guy now.
You're up lifetime betting the guy. How could you not? Like, even if he goes, alternates wins and losses for the rest of his career, it's like, hey, that's the definition of a ride or die right there.
Exactly, brother.
Connor, I want to say thank you so much, man. You hung with me here. We broke this entire card down. 139 live viewers right now for an hour and 50 minutes. You're the absolute man. I love watching you and your show and your content. It just means the absolute world to me that you joined me here on this podcast to break down this fight card.
Of course, dude. Are you kidding me? I was happy to do it. We were doing the MMA hour earlier. I was like, when is this going to end? Like, we got to get to the Die Hard MMA pod. Like, we got to get this going here, man. I'm tired of it.
Change that name. It's like the MMA day now.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, it is lengthy. But yes, dude, thank you so much for having me, man. I had a blast. I wish we could have talked about the full card. I wish there were some Bo Nichols, some Yuri Prochazkas on this one. But alas, we got to make do with what we've got. And thank you so much for having me, man. I really do appreciate it.
It's been a blast, man. This was fun. If you want to tell the people where they can find you, where they can support you, or if you have any other shows coming up you want to talk about, man, the floor is yours.
Yeah, sure, man. I mean, on Twitter at Connor Burks, love getting on the bird and just throwing out memes and whatnot about the UFC. MMA Hour, MMA Fighting YouTube channel. Obviously, tune in every Mondays and Wednesdays. The biggest thing, though, UFC 282 watch party on the MMA Fighting YouTube channel. That's something we've started since UFC 280. It's fun. We try to have a blast. We do the main card. We sweat out some bets together. It's a great time. So, yeah, tune into that. And thanks again for having me, man. This was a blast, dude.
This was great. Thank you so much, Connor. Everybody get out there, kick some ass. Hopefully we gave you some information that you can use to make some positive reads, to put some jingle in your pocket. We are headed into the holiday season. We're going to try and string together a couple of wins here so we can buy some presents and stuff like that for everybody. But get out there. Guys, just remember, there's people out there that have struggles. We all have them. And you don't know what other people are going through. So try to have just a little bit of grace, be that light that you're looking for in your own life. Surround yourself with good, positive people. And I promise you, your life is going to improve once you start surrounding yourself with those people that lift you up instead of bringing you down. You're going to feed off each other. Things will look up. Things will look better. So
Clint, I really appreciate that. That's your mentality mindset. Like living a positive life is a great way to go, especially in this internet age, like where there's just so much negativity and so much hate out there. To see someone have this similar mindset of always remaining positive. And like, yeah, we give out bets, we give out picks and stuff, but we're transparent about we are not the best bettors. We're doing this for fun. We're doing this to bring a positive light, to have, a fun hobby. So I've always appreciated that about you. I'm glad that you preach that.
Thank you, Connor. That means a lot, and right back at you, man. And that's, I think, why we hit it off so well, so easily. There's very few of us that do it that way, but you know what? We're growing. The community is growing, and it's coming around. I've got the #1 best chat, bar none, in the game. There's 1 or 2 trolls a week. Everybody else is in here looking to have a good time, looking to be positive, looking to enjoy the best sport in the world, and really just lift each other up. And that's by design. We've trained it that way. And people that come in looking to rip people a new one and looking to shit on people, they end up either leaving because no one wants to hear it or gives them the time of day, or they join us. They come around. We infect them with the positivity, and that's what we're doing. We're taking over the internet, the diehard family, and we're gonna bring some positivity to everybody. And I'm just so happy you could be a part of it tonight, man.
Awesome, dude. Thank you again, and look forward to joining again at some point.
Hell yeah, we will absolutely do it again. Everybody get out there, have a wonderful week, kick some ass, and until next time,